Hey guys, my name is Becc. I am a psychic channel and a sacred Lotus healer. Welcome to the video. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to talk to you about grace and a little about my healing path because they go hand in hand. So when I asked my spirit guides to give me a really clear explanation of grace, it took me a little while to find the words, so I was asking for guidance. And they shared that grace is the activator. Grace is the catalyst for your light to unfold and flow through you. And that light we are speaking of is really your higher self energy, your higher light, the full aliveness that you are. So, stepping into grace is something that I had to learn to do in my life. I experienced really severe abuse and trauma from childhood until I was an adult, essentially until I escaped the situation. My path to recovery was a long one. I'm still recovering, as one would be from such extensive abuse. However, it has become a lot easier in recent years because I stepped into grace. Essentially, I had so many problems. I had really severe post-traumatic stress disorder. I struggled with dissociation, eating disorders, all these different things that are just ultimately the result of developmental trauma. When you're not able to develop the natural functions that people have to cope with life and situations, because it's interrupted by traumatic experience. The development of those processes is interrupted. So yeah, it's pretty overwhelming to deal with and live through. It's one thing to survive your trauma, it's another thing to find a way to live with it and to actually live, not just keep surviving. So I kept meeting with the same kind of inner suffering of like, I just can't go on, life is futile, I feel like life equals suffering, because that was all I had experienced when I was younger, so that was my association. And then you're carrying all these wounds, life becomes painful. It still is sometimes as I'm healing and moving through. But I kept really meeting with a suicidality in me. And after one of these times where I had attempted suicide and failed, I really hit a wall or a point of like, I can't get rid of this suffering. I've tried and tried and nothing is working. And it's true that I was doing a lot of therapy, different healing techniques with very specialized people, so should have been working. But I was at war with the suffering itself, and I don't think I realized that I was doing that for a while. And I think that many of us are not realizing that when, even in self-development circles especially, when you are trying to change or fix something, you need to be mindful of the energy behind that. So I was at war with my own suffering, and I had an awakening, many awakenings after this, and in this process I've had many series of awakenings, but a really big one was that the problem is not my suffering, well, it's not my pain that's making me suffer, it's the fact that I keep trying to change it, and I say that it's wrong, I meet with it like it's wrong and it needs to be different, and I'm trying to find like a deadline for it, like the end of it, and I couldn't find it, and every time I couldn't find the end of it, I would feel like nothing was working and futile, and so it was this horrible, very excruciating loop, and that would bring up also very severe traumatic memories and flashbacks and all those things. So yeah, it was really painful. When I hit that wall sort of place, I realized, okay, if I keep doing this, if I keep resisting what I'm feeling, if I keep resisting life itself, then I'm going to die. Because I knew that I would just end up feeling really suicidal again and try to get rid of myself again. So try and get rid of the pain. You know, that's what anyone who's suicidal is really wanting, is not the end of their life, but the end of a life full of pain. So from then on, I lived life like I was going to die, because that's really how I felt. Was like, you know, those typical scenarios of like someone who has a terminal illness and you live differently. Even though I didn't have a typical terminal illness, I definitely did. So I stopped resisting life. The next day, so to speak, it's really hard to put into words, but there was nothing to do, nothing to be, nothing to fix, no one to try to be, nothing to strive for, because I didn't know if I was going to be alive for that achievement. And I also had some unhelpful things of just thinking it wouldn't work anyway, so what's the point? But I was kind of using that what's the pointness that remained to help me just keep being, I stopped doing ultimately. I didn't set out to like, oh, I'm gonna be now, just adjusting this. But that's what happened, because I felt so in the now. There's this clarity that happens when you think that you're going to die. This intense clarity that nothing matters, and you're only thinking about what's actually important, and you realize how everything else is just stupid. So what that did though was that set me onto a path of stepping into an awareness. I got this awakening awareness that the nowness that I began to be in for possibly the first time, because I had struggled so much with trauma and dissociation, which takes you away from the present moment. Stepping into the nowness, I saw it for what it was, and I saw that life was singing and life was sacred. I felt this sacredness, and that flourished in me because it was then in this nowness, in this giving upness, that I realized that I was free from the suffering. So I became like happy, emotional, because of the relief from the pain that happened, which I didn't think could happen. And I flourished in that nowness, and then that set my vibration even higher, and suddenly I was aware that life is sacred and life is perfect, and I understood so many things instantaneously, that the trauma reactions in me that had been activating in me that were causing me so much suffering, there was nothing wrong with them, because they're actually the perfect and normal reaction to have to the experiences that I had had, and the reminders that I had in the present of those experiences. So because I became so allowing, giving them permission to finally be, they began to just move through me so quickly that I barely noticed them, and it became that they were just these little ripples, and then they were gone. And that is the quality of, I guess, an enlightened state of being. It is to allow the waves to flow through you with no resistance at all. That's why I had such a strong awakening, because I was accidentally doing that. And I stepped into my God essence. And there were other things about oneness and unity, and how everything is made of love, and all these other things that you see when you are free from all the mind's stuff. And I was free. And from then on, I was like, okay, I understand. And so I had to put it down. I had to put down fixing my suffering and trying to make it better and trying to make it different. And I understood that I had to meet with things with a quality of, this is here, it's fine that it's here, it makes sense. In fact, it is sacred and perfect. And when I do that, I notice that the feelings would just flow through me. The other thing that started to happen was that my higher self could finally act through me. And this is the quality of grace. This is the room for miracles. A miracle is really just letting your higher self flow fully and completely through your being, or so fully and completely that things happen, like energetic blockages get removed. And you don't know how it happened, so we call it a miracle. But that's what I want to tell you that grace is. Grace is allowing Spirit to move and act in your life and within you. And it has to come from a space of total surrender and then a trust in Spirit and in that grace. Trusting enough to surrender, to allow. Often we are pushed into surrender because of what I face, which is that no choice. But there's another option, which is to step into trust now and to step out of the way now, whether you are in extreme suffering or you are not. And then grace can move through you. And that's what I want to teach people about. Your higher self is that grace. It is the same, my guides call it a spiritual chemical. This is an energy. This is an energy in you that's already here. We must step into allowing and flowing with life, with yourself, with the ripples and the waves of emotion that arise in you. This is something that has been taught for a long time by the Buddhists and various other Eastern religions, I think. I definitely know that Buddhism is one of them that speaks of this. And I guess I went the long way round to those awakenings. But I know that I went that way so that when you work with me in session or you receive these teachings, you can know that I understand what it is like to be in such deep suffering, that the idea of stepping out of the way for Spirit, or even getting that concept or hearing higher dimensional energetic based things or truths can feel so difficult and impossible and just difficult. But I tell you, it is your greatest freedom. It is freedom to recognize yourself as Spirit first and then use the quality of grace and all the other beautiful qualities of your Spirit to heal yourself. This is how all of us are supposed to not only heal, but manifest and create in life and enjoy life and all of those things. Your higher self is your partner in life, and that's what I didn't understand. And I wasn't trusting in my spirit guides, who are aspects of your higher self. Even though I could hear them, I was very stubborn and identified, and ultimately those two things occur because I was in so much pain with the level of suffering that I was experiencing and the high degrees of pain that I had, the very severe trauma and abuse that I had. Perhaps one day I will talk about it in detail, but for now all I can say is that it was enough to leave me paralyzed at times, to leave me stuck in the past at times, literally in flashbacks and dissociative episodes. It's pretty intense. So it was the most beautiful and freeing thing to recognize that grace was already here and grace was already in me. I had to step out of the way. I had to let life happen through me. I had to let my life energy shine through me. Even though I didn't want to, all that resistance is you not wanting to, because you're scared of letting go of control. You're scared of fixing and changing, and rather you're scared of giving up the fixing and the changing. Because really all of that is you trying to control what is moving through you, the painful emotions or the difficult life situations. We are all always trying to control everything, and it is the root cause of our suffering. And it is a blockage to grace. It is a blockage to the natural ease of life. If you look at, a good example is looking at nature and the animals. there is no like even barely a thought process. They do have thought processes. I'm someone that talks to animals on a multidimensional animal communication level. They definitely have thoughts and impressions, but the mind is so quiet and soft and only there when necessary. We overthink and over-attached and over-identified because we don't feel safe to simply be. And if we don't feel safe to simply be, we don't take that risk. We cannot allow our spirit to flow through us and to help us complete ourselves, really realizing that we're already complete. If you are focused on what you are not, you will only stay in that range. You need to become aware that there is this background stillness and love that is holding you and offering you miracles. It looks like, on a practical level, beginning these practices of stillness, of watching and observing thoughts, of connecting to the heart and your higher self through intentional practices. Once you do those, you can receive intuitive guidance. You know, for example, when I heal myself now with my spirit guides, I will close my eyes and I will have an intention to connect with them or my higher self or both. And then I step out of the way. And it's this nuancey thing that only you can feel within yourself when you're really doing it, when there's a part of you still holding on. The words become limiting to teach it to you, but stepping out of the way, I let go. I don't like let go because a lot of people, it's overused and we don't really know how to let go. In my healing processes back in the day, for example, I was trying to let go. I had to let go of letting go. So if you're like me and you're doing that, let go of letting go. We're only here to be. Let go of trying to be. Literally nothing. If your inner controlling self is kind of like that, you will take instructions and you will make it like a whole new thing. Can you be the end? First, you'll notice the things and stuff that's around and within you. Set the intention, I allow grace to move through me, which means I allow my higher self. In time, with practice, to maintain that state, so just practice and practice, you will begin to feel an energy kind of like, you'll be like, oh, I think something happened, or it depends how you're going with your intuitive processes. For me, I can really sense energy or see energy, so I could see when an energetic block started coming out of my chest on behalf of my higher self. You don't have to be at that state with it. If you trust, I trust that natural healing is occurring. I trust that natural healing is within me. Things may move, you may get emotions arise as things clear out. Remember to stay grounded. It's okay to pause these processes. Your higher self is your partner, grace is your partner. So we want to be in the now moment when we do any kind of healing, which is where grounding techniques are really important. So I'm here, I'm feeling this, but say like a really strong memory comes up or something like that, or you get overwhelmed. Okay, I open my eyes, I look around the room, I notice where I am, I touch or hold something. What does it feel like? It feels hard. It feels smooth-ish. You are engaging your senses to get yourself in touch with what's happening now. So this is a summarized version of those processes, but it's also the intro of those processes. So just recognize that grace is our way through. I talk about the way through a lot because I had to get that the way through for me is the way through. Meaning There's nothing to do here. There's nothing to be different. What if everything's already as it should be? That might include pain. The way through this pain is the way through, is to keep going through. Go through it. There isn't a technique or a tool or I go through it. I just keep walking through this tunnel or darkness or whatever you're experiencing. And then relief comes, light comes, grace comes, your higher self comes. I can't convey strongly enough how sacred you are and the qualities of light that are already within you. These miracles that you're looking for, the healing that you're looking for, it is here. You need to be willing to trust, even if you don't believe or you don't trust. All you do, you just try. I trust, even if you don't believe yourself. That's how you build trust. I know what it's like when people are like, just trust, just let go. You're like, but how? If you've had a lot of trauma, it's really hard. It's not an easy thing. And even sometimes when you haven't, can you say to yourself, I intend to trust. I don't know how to trust, but I'm going to trust. My plan is to trust my higher self. Eventually you build the energy, and through experience that trust also naturally develops. Grace is the activator. It is a natural chemical catalyst within you to transform your healing. And that is why I teach from the place that I do, because I understand that no amount of trying to fix yourself or techniques or processes are going to change what happened to you or what's left in you from that now. What changes us and moves us is what's already in us. Your sacred heart light, your sacred grace, your sacred spirit. This is not a process of finding something that's been gone or lost. It is a process of unfolding to your natural light and expressing it outwardly. It is a process of removing the layers of conditioning through loving presence of your spirit, coming to awareness of your spirit through practices of loving presence. And the merging of those two allows grace to move and act in your life, to provide the ease and the flowing with the waves of life and flow with life that you see in animals in the world, the natural world. You are that flow. You are the flowing life essence.